Let's talk to the great Herm Edwards now. Let's go to the guest lines and talk to Coach, former NFL head coach with the Jets and the Chiefs. You can find him on Twitter at Herm Edwards. Coach, it's Pat Boyle and Brad Evans, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And boy, maybe you get to bed early last night after that snooze fest of a game.
Well, it was difficult, obviously, for New England. They got overpowered on both sides of the ball in the trenches. We knew a lot about the defensive front of Seattle, but I was really impressed by their offensive line play as well. Able to run the ball the way they did. They dictated the terms of the whole game, obviously, and it was one that when that is happening to you and you can't control the line of scrimmage, you're in for a long evening, and it proved to be the point when you watch that thing unfold.
Yeah. Hey, Coach, again, kudos to Seattle for a hell of a game, but how much blame do you lay at the feet of Drake Maye for New England not being able to score a point until the fourth quarter last night? I know it was reported he took pain injections for the right shoulder injury. He didn't make an excuse out of it at the podium. So, point blank, is Drake Maye the scapegoat for last night's underwhelming performance, or was it New England's offense across the board?
Well, I think when I'm not big on blaming players. I just not. I don't do that. I just look at it. It starts when the ball's being snapped, and how does those guys in front control the line of scrimmage? Guys, he had no chance. He had no chance. Zero. I mean, I like his toughness. I just think as much as he's been hit in the playoffs, the guy's been sacked 20 times in playoff competition. He got sacked 6 times last night. He got hit at least 20 times. And so it's easy to blame it on the quarterback because we always say the quarterback plays with the ball. I get all that. But if you watch the game through my eyes, I'm like, this guy got no shot. There's no shot. What are you talking about? The time he set up, he was getting hit. What are you supposed to do? I mean, I don't know what you got to do. What do you want? He couldn't run. They didn't allow him to run. So it's just one of those games where, they got shellacked. Basically, that left side of that offensive line, they couldn't stop those guys from rushing. They took their turns and just they got after him. They hit him. They did whatever. Then they got behind, and then it was like, okay, well, now you got to go back and throw. That even makes it worse.
Yeah, Coach, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that, dig in a little bit deeper. From your viewpoint and given your coaching background, if calling the shots, how would you have approached the game plan different for New England in that first half? I mean, they only totaled 52 yards over the first frame. Did you feel there were any exploitable opportunities whatsoever that they missed, or was Seattle's defensive scheme just that dominant?
They were a dominant bunch. I mean, they reminded me back in the day when the Ravens would play like that, when the Baltimore Ravens. I'll go further back than that. My era against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, it was kind of one of them performances. And so we can all lay blame on whoever we want to blame. Look, I said it a week ago, Seattle was the better team. I mean, why don't we not understand that? Seattle is a better football team. And it showed up on the biggest stage. And, you look at it, I mean, the Patriots, no one anticipated them to win the division or even get to the Super Bowl. Neither one of these teams were picked. I mean, you guys bet. Did you guys have Seattle in beginning of the season and New England going to the Super Bowl? If you did, you guys are rich. You probably didn't. I don't think. They wasn't on your scorecard, or you wouldn't be talking to me. You'd be in the Bahamas right now saying, hey, man, I can retire. No one picked them. Nobody. Okay? Even if you're a Patriot fan, you didn't pick the Patriots. You go, no, we can't pick the Patriots. No way. No, they only won 4 games last year. How can they go to the Super Bowl? Right? But that's the NFL. That's what makes it so unique. You never know. You think you know until the games are being played, and all of a sudden you have 2 teams in the Super Bowl that nobody thought that they were going to get there. Now, Seattle, I'll give them credit for this. They play in the toughest division in football, NFC West. That's a good division. There's 3 playoff teams over there. Probably 3 playoff teams will be there again next year. So we know Seattle's very good, and we know San Francisco won't be beat up like they were last year, and the Rams. So that's 3 of them right there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Coach, do you believe Kenneth Walker III was the most deserving game MVP last night? And kind of, adding to that, do you think the game should have an offensive and defensive award, or are you still good with the individual award? Or do you think like a defense and special teams should be recognized as a group option for the voters that are out there? Because my vote, Coach, and I've passionately argued for it, it was a collective effort by the defense, I feel, that really earned MVP honors for Seattle. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no question. And the thing that's unique about Seattle, they don't have a guy with 15, 20 sacks. They individually, they all rush the quarterback. They get their different ways. And this was a complete defense at every level last night. And it started at the line of scrimmage. The thing I learned when I was a coach, and even a player, but more as a coach, I used to stand on the first series or two, stand right on the sideline and get even with the ball. And we had it on offense. When the ball was snapped, I wanted to see the exchange of where did the offensive linemen knock those guys off the ball, or were we getting knocked back? That's what I wanted to know early in games. And if you watch that game unfold, Seattle offensively, Seattle, they were knocking them off the ball. I mean, the runner wasn't getting touched until he got about 3 yards up the field. Defensively, when the quarterback hit his third step, he was in trouble. He was in trouble. They took that whole left side of that offensive line, and they were sitting in the backfield. You thought they were lined up back there. So it was one of those games. It was just a matter of time before it looked like it looked.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking with the great coach Herm Edwards here on BetMGM tonight. He's Brad Evans. I'm Pat Boyle. This is Westwood One Sports. Coach, former NFL head coach, of course, with the Jets and the Chiefs. You can follow him on Twitter at Herm Edwards. Coach, I'll paraphrase the quote from Seahawks cornerback Devin Witherspoon. He essentially said that their coaching staff, Seattle's, did a great job of putting them in positions to win because the tape they watched on the Patriots revealed the offensive line essentially, tipping pitches, to use the baseball term, giving away what plays they were going to run by the way their O-line would set up. How often did you come across such glaring giveaways when watching tape? And is that something New England should have been aware of, or do you think that that's just elite preparation by Seattle?
I mean, you go into the game, there's some tips when you study, when you game plan, of sometimes of how offensive linemen stand, their stance. And this is why you always have to, I've always said, you always got to scout yourself. When you're a position coach, you got to scout your players to make sure that when you have certain calls that it always looks the same. If it doesn't, then all of a sudden you're giving the opponent an advantage. And that's a part of the whole week of preparation. You always look at film, you look at the opponent, but you also look at yourself. And you ask yourself the questions of, is the left tackle, move back a little further now because it's the pass? Is the guard leaning a little bit because it's a run? All these little things. And when you study tape, if you have a good coaching staff, they pick up on these things. This is what guys do. They look at the little things to try to get an edge on you. So they did a good job of preparing and preparing their football team. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no question. Coach, last one for me. Parity really reigned supreme in the NFL this year. Do you feel that was an anomaly, or does Seattle honestly have a realistic shot of repeating / maybe building a 2020s-esque dynasty? What are your thoughts on that?
I would be highly surprised. Just the division alone that they play in. Can they survive that division? And there's 3 playoff teams in that division. And those teams they stayed in the division. I don't think they moved out of that division after this season. They're still there. San Francisco's going to be there. They won't have all those injuries. The Rams are going to come back, right? Seattle's going to come back. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, it's a really good division. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, it's fun. I mean, all of them had double-digit wins now. And they just beat up each other over in that division.
Yeah. Yep. And, you normally, you think that maybe dynasties are often, or they come across often, because we saw the Chiefs and the Patriots do it, but it's over the course of the 60, 70 years of the NFL, it's normally not the case. Got Coach Herm Edwards with us here for another 2 minutes or so on BetMGM tonight. Coach, finally, Clint Kubiak is now officially the Raiders' new head coach after winning the Super Bowl as the Seahawks OC. Damn tough division, that AFC West. Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs.
Yeah.
Assuming the Raiders do the obvious and draft Fernando Mendoza as their quarterback, got to see what else they do in the draft and free agency, and if Max Crosby's even still on the team in 2026. But what are your expectations for the Raiders next year? Do you think they can surprise some folks?
I just hope they can be more competitive than they've been, and the Raiders need to be relevant. They and I say that as a former player and a guy that grew up on the West Coast. When the Raiders are relevant, the league's better. You always needed the boogeyman. Everybody's afraid of the boogeyman. In my era, the Raiders were the boogeymen. They were the bad guys. They were the guys with the patch on their eye. When they came to town, you locked your doors. Oh, the Raiders are coming to town. They were kind of the bullies. And when they were good, it was kind of fun because look, and I remember it. I grew up on the West Coast. I grew up right down from where the Raiders were. It's like, whether you liked them or not, the patch on the eye was like, these are the Raiders, man. They're the bad guys in a good way. And they played physical. They always played to the echo of the whistle on defense. I remember those days of Jack Tatum and all those guys on defense. It was like, wow. So I'm hoping that they are relevant. The sad thing for me is, and I said it, they should have never left Oakland. They're always new to me, the Oakland Raiders. When they were an Oakland boy, they were something now. They were really, really good.
I agree with you, but money talks, and that money in Las Vegas sure does a hell of a lot of talking. Yeah. Either way, Coach, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to catching up with you soon. Now, I'm sure that you maybe got some vacation coming your way now that it's the off season.
Well, in football, as we know, it's never an off season, right? We'll talk about the draft and all these other things. We'll talk about free agency. It never stops. That's what makes the league so great.
That's right. Coach, thanks so much for joining us, man. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
There you go. The great Herm Edwards, former coach of the Jets and the Chiefs. You can follow him on Twitter at Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. That's one of his famous quotes, man. He had some good ones in that interview with us, too. He's always dropping some good liners.